first impressions were, I couldn't believe it was so patriotic. There's Turkish flags everywhere. And I later found out that this was because of the 100th anniversary of the formation of the Republic of Turkey, which is 29th of October 1923. So that was perhaps why there's so many flags around. That was pretty cool. And flags of Ataturk, the founder of Turkey. And so, speaking of that, because I'm a big history nerd, I decided to go to, in Izmir, there's a massive sculpture of Ataturk's face, kind of like Turkey's Mount Rushmore, so it's on a smaller scale. So I wanted to go to that, got some Turkish lira out, got the metro into the city centre, or what I thought was the city centre, but seemed to let me off nowhere near the city centre. So I came straight out of the station from the airport, and there was a row of taxis outside, so naturally I went to the first one to the top of the rank, and the bloke inside didn't have much English, but he welcomed me in with open arms. And first thing he does is, he's already smoking, is he just gets out the pack of smokes and he just offers me one. So I was heavily sleep deprived. Had a few beers the night before, and I hadn't slept because I never sleep before a big flight, before an early flight, because I'm always paranoid I might miss it. So had no sleep, was falling asleep on the train, and so he offered me a smoke, and I don't even smoke, but I was just like, might wake me up. So then he's trying to give me like a tour of the city. The taxi driver was so excited, he even rang his girlfriend and had me on FaceTime to his girlfriend. It's like, oh, we have a foreigner in the taxi, except in broken English. And then I was saying I wanted to go see Ataturk, and put the Ataturk statue, but he misunderstood, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But then he was saying Ankara, and he's trying to drive to Ankara, which I think I worked out was about £600 or £500. I looked it up afterwards. Can't remember the exact amount. But I was like, no. And then he understood, and then I showed him a picture and he drove me there. But that was pretty cool. And it seemed to be a recurrent theme, smoking in taxis, because I got in another taxi later, and the taxi driver, he got out a pack of smokes, and I thought he'd offer me one, but I think he might have been just asking could he smoke, because then he put them away and he wasn't smoking. But every taxi in Izmir, they seem to offer you a smoke, which was funny. Also, it's interesting, a lot of them ask for euros, because apparently the Turkish lira has been severely devalued. So I think the taxi to the airport, I got €2 €5, or maybe it's just €5. It was like €5-10 for the taxi to the airport, so you wouldn't get that in Dublin. So the next place I had on my list to go to was the bazaar. So this was pretty cool. Yeah, again, Turkish flags everywhere, and I aimed to get a Turkish flag. So I went to try to buy the Ataturk flag, and the guy wouldn't sell it to me. I don't know why, but he just kept shaking his head. But then I went up to another stall, the road, and got a no bother. So that's that flag just there. But there's a lot of them flags around as well. And then I decided to relax and have some Turkish chai or tea and just watch the world go by. So that was pretty cool. So I really like the vibes in Izmir, and I think I'll certainly be back someday. And maybe Istanbul's more touristy, well, I assume it is. So I'd like to try Istanbul one day as well. So that was my first time to Turkey. But the flight to Dubai was with an airline called Sun Express, a low-cost Turkish airline as far as I know. So that flight left Izmir at 8, and I got in to Dubai about 10 to 2. But this is where things went a bit wrong, but that's natural when travelling. So Dubai is a very interesting place, very polarizing. I think people have very polarizing opinions on it. I stayed in a place called Dira, which is near the airport. Now I stayed there for two reasons. I actually would have stayed further down in maybe a hostel or something, because it wasn't even that expensive for a hostel. Hotel rooms aren't particularly expensive in Dubai. Well, it depends where you're staying, but you can find relatively cheap places. But the main reason I stayed in Dira is because I had an early flight. It's near the airport, and my flight got in quite late, so I didn't want to spend a fortune on a taxi down to the main Dubai strip or area, whatever you want to call it, down near the Palms and that. So that's the main reason I stayed there. So I said I wouldn't really be in the room much. That's why I ended up getting such a bad room that it was practically like a prison, because I essentially got the cheapest place. It was about £40 a night for a hostel, which I don't mind. I'd pay. In Dubai is quite expensive, and I knew India would be cheap. But the issue is, the flight got in 2 a.m, so a taxi would be very, very expensive at that hour because public transport wasn't running. The Airbnb is probably the worst I've ever stayed in. Now, fair is fair, you're in Dubai and you're paying £20 a night, so you get what you pay for, and I couldn't complain because it didn't give false expectations, but I don't know why I assumed it would be better. So basically, as you can see, it was essentially a prison cell. So there's lots of rooms. I came into the room and I could see no bed, and I thought, I've been completely scammed here. Where am I going to sleep? So there's these steps to my right, but they're like very flimsy, made of painted MDF. But I noticed there's a hole at the top. I know it's that like an attic or something. But I went up and the bed was up there. Well, I don't know if it was just because I was tired, but it took me about 5 or 10 minutes to figure out. Now, luckily, I was really, really tired, so I fell asleep straight away. But the mattress was so thin, it's like prison mattress. And then same with the pillow. I might as well have been sleeping on the bare floor. But got up in the morning and said, right, I'll plan my day. Went to connect the Wi-Fi, wasn't a Wi-Fi. No mobile data. And I'm in the middle of suburban Old Town Dubai. It wasn't even in the centre of Old Town Dubai. But Dira itself was very interesting. I'm not sure how big it is. Maybe it's a big place. There's a variety, but it's just near the Dubai Old Town. I wouldn't know Dubai particularly well, but it was not touristy at all, and most people there seem to be migrant workers, particularly Filipino migrant workers. So it was an unusual experience. You had like a lot of kind of local businesses. You had people kept giving me leaflets for strip shows, I think they were, but they didn't seem, let's just say they didn't seem high level or fancy strip shows. Maybe I don't know, it was prostitution, I don't know, but yeah, it was a lot of migrant workers, and the conditions of the area there, it seemed to be kind of more the darker side of Dubai. It didn't seem particularly nice, certainly not what you would imagine when you think of Dubai. But I suppose it's a different experience that I just ended up in by pure coincidence, because I wanted to stay near the Dubai Old Town, so I wanted to experience Dubai Old Town and something different to the normal Dubai experience, because I'll admit I did not think I would like Dubai. However, my opinion on Dubai is, I found it was like almost a better version of Las Vegas, because Las Vegas, it's not really cultural or real. It's almost like a massive theme park, if that makes sense. I think Dubai is similar in that way, but I found the difference in Dubai is everywhere you go, the service is excellent, you get what you pay for, it's good value for money, whereas I found Las Vegas wasn't good value for money because you're paying a fortune for everything's overpriced. So I did end up liking Dubai. I was only there 2 days. I would admit I prefer other destinations. I think you can get like good service, good people, other places, but having said that, it still is a good place to visit. You have a good time, good service and stuff. Now, the dark side is obviously the treatment of migrant workers and things like that. I saw it myself. And the kafala system. Now, I have seen arguments that Dubai is essentially the new America, the new land of opportunity, and I do think there is, particularly made for Westerners going over there, a lot of opportunity. But the big question and interesting thing is because there's a lot of Pakistani immigrants that are driving Ubers and taxis and stuff, really friendly, really helpful. Even when I went to the Burj, some guys from Pakistan I talked to, is from Karachi. He dropped me like to the best photo position because I was saying I was looking for somewhere to take photos and take it all in because I'll only be there briefly, a brief stopover. So he actually drove me further than where I'd booked because I didn't know where it was going. So he did me a favour. But there is the argument that anyone can go there and make money and do the so-called new American dream, the Dubai dream. I don't know how that works with the kafala system in terms of migrant workers and stuff like that, but I wouldn't know. I don't think it's my place to comment, but that is an interesting aspect. So by the time I got food, figured out somewhat where it was going, it was about half the day was gone. I'd only one day in Dubai, so I got in late the night before and then I had an early flight the day after. So I was staying 2 nights technically, but I basically 1 full day. So I went down to the old town, went to the souk, probably pronouncing that wrong, but the golden souk is where you can get jewellery, and then there's a souk where you can get say clothes, and then there's another one where you can get pots and pans. You can get anything there. But that was a pretty cool experience, but I didn't have much time there, unfortunately. But I said I wanted to see the Queen Elizabeth II, the ship. So because I'm a big transport nerd, I had a model I made of the ship at home. So I really wanted to see it. It's built in the 60s as far as I know. One of the kind of old school ocean liners, used a troop ship in the Falklands, so a lot of history there. But I wanted to go there. I knew roughly where that was. I'd had it saved on maps. I'd learned somewhat from Izmir. So I went to you can get a boat across. It's like a river to kind of New Dubai, so to say. So I went to get that and I needed cash. But all the ATMs, they charge I think the equivalent 10 quid. Eventually I had to give in, and then my card wouldn't work because there wasn't enough money in my Revolut, because I needed internet to put money in my Revolut, transfer over. I left my bank card in the Airbnb, but I hid it in my bag because just in case I lost my wallet or something. So basically the taxis all take cards, so I was like, right, it'd be cool to get the boat, but I'll just have to get a taxi. And I'm always very suspicious because usually you use Uber because at least you know who it is and that they're gonna come, and Uber will back it up if they try to rip you off or something. So there's this Lexus there, and there's these guys in suits. There's normal taxis, and then there's these fellas in suits. And I went to a normal taxi and they're like, oh, he'll take you. And it's a guy in a suit. And I'm like, this is so dodgy. I can't afford this. But I agreed a price. I think I agreed it's equivalent £20. I don't know how much dirham that is. But agreed £20, and he took me there. I think it cost about 25. But I couldn't believe it. It was like a luxury taxi. So I had a phone charger because my phone was running out of battery because the sockets didn't work properly in my Airbnb, and then there was Wi-Fi in the taxi. I got in, he's like, oh, do you want to connect to the Wi-Fi? And I'm like, yeah. So then I could plan everything out from there, so that was great. But I got to the ship, and I have to say it was kind of sad in a way because it was a bit run down itself when we got into the ship itself, but I loved it. I'd love to stay there someday. But it does, like, and I think this is kind of sums up a lot of Dubai. It's, you can tell there's grand plans for it, but it's kind of almost an industrial dock area. Like, I think they obviously want to develop it in the future, but it's not fully developed now. And as well, like, I went and walk around the ship, and there's like a lot of kind of empty ballrooms, and it's like areas meant to be, I think, like a shopping area, and that's just like deserted. So there's a lot of potential, but yeah, it's kind of a lot of things lacking. Like I say, that people go to more central hotels that are nicer, but fancy that someday I might get a cheap stay there. So, but it's handy. So of course went for a beer, watching the sunset, view of the city, perfect. And actually, that is the oldest pub in Dubai, technically, because it was on the ship before they were allowed to have pubs in hotels in Dubai and serve alcohol. So even though it wasn't in Dubai then, it's technically the oldest pub in Dubai. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another cool thing about the ship was outside there was a load of cars assembled, and apparently that had been a rally. I think it basically drives across the world, but yeah, that I love my cars as well, so that was pretty cool. But next, I went to McGettigan's because I'm a big Celtic fan. That's home to the Dubai Celtic Supporters Club. Middle of the desert, there's this big Celtic Supporters Club, but I'd love to go there for a match one day maybe. But settle down for a night, decide to have a Guinness, of course. And they had this thing that like it puts the designs on the top, the logos, and the guy, the barman, he's a lovely fella, but he's no idea, and he's put like English rugby and everything, and eventually I convinced him to put Celtic. So there you go. After that, because this is my last night, and I just had to see the Burj. I'd only seen it in the distance, so I got an Uber down to it because yeah, again there's internet in the bar, and this is like I just thought it was amazing. Like it was so tall. I asked someone to take a picture of me. They just couldn't fit, no matter what way they moved. They couldn't fit the whole thing in the picture. So that's how big it was. Well worth it, even just looking at it, you know. And it was pure empty that time of night. So eventually the security told me to go away, but I did get quite close to it in the end. But one day I'd like to go back and see it during the day, but maybe it'd be packed. So eventually got a taxi back to my accommodation, and my flight was 6 a.m. So I can't remember, but I do not think I got much sleep, if any, that night. So I love my cigars as well. And another great thing about Dubai Airport, I've never seen this anywhere in the world, is they have indoor smoking areas, and they're absolutely lovely. Whereas other airports, usually it's outside, or even if the indoor ones in India, they're very small. So yeah, unique experience in the airport. I had a hectic day. I'd been obviously seeing the Burj. I had a few pints, been in the QE2, just exploring mainly. But because my flight was so early, I got very, very little sleep. I tried to have a quick nap in my prison cell, as I call it. But then it was time to go to the airport. Got taxi to the airport. It must have been about 4 a.m. by the time I got there. So that's why I ended up smoking in the smoking lounge in the airport. This is a proper lounge. I don't even know if I was meant to be in there. It felt like I wasn't, but pretty cool anyway. And even when I went to Australia, my stopover in Abu Dhabi, I went looking for a smoking lounge, couldn't find one. It's the same thing, pods. But I think the Abu Dhabi airport's just been newly built or renovated. I think it's a new airport altogether, so maybe the lounges aren't finished, or maybe I was in the wrong terminal. I remember looking up at the time, I couldn't find one either way. But now 4 a.m. I was like, why not have a cigar? And then in the middle of having a cigar, next thing I hear the call to prayer, and I'm like, oh no! I'm like, what do I do? Do I need to stop? Do I need to uh, do this, do that? It was a bit of a crazy experience, but nobody seemed uh, either non-Muslims didn't seem to react or do anything, so I think I was okay. And then there was some kid running around the smoking lounge. There's a kid in the smoking lounge. I don't know why, and he's doing the Ronaldo Sue. So I was like, at least I'm not that kid. I'm a smoking lounge at 4 a.m. But yeah, yet again another experience in the Middle East. That flight was with Oman Air, or Air Oman, I think Oman Air, and that basically was via Muscat, so I was with both. But I decided to do a long stopover in Oman. So when else will I get to go to Oman again? And then it was 25 past 4 in the morning. The next day was the flight leaving Oman. Now, by this stage, so much traveling and not very much sleep. I was absolutely exhausted. I got on the flight to Muscat. Slept a good bit of that, but it was only an hour flight. So I arrived in Muscat at 20 past 7 in the morning and got in a taxi straight to my hotel. So I landed in Oman, and that was kind of my first experience of kind of how hectic India would be, weirdly, because when the plane landed, there's a lot of like Indian immigrants was in like Oman, Dubai, so there's a lot flying from Dubai to Muscat, and then the later leg to India, Muscat to Delhi. But the minute the plane landed, literally we're still on the runway and everyone's jumping up, like running for the exit. And I'm thinking, the door is not going to open any quicker. So I was just chilling in my seat. The guy beside me, I think, is getting a bit aggro because he wants to get out. But yeah, everyone's running for the exit, and I'm just thinking, geez, India is going to be hectic. It's going to be crazy. But that was Muscat. Now the hotel, I couldn't check in till like 1 or something. So luckily there's a pool in the hotel, and I just went up there and slept beside the pool, chilling out. But lovely, nice weather, nice and fresh. This hotel had a pool, lovely room, cost me £32 a night. So that's £12 more per night than the hotel in Dubai. And I think you can see it's much, much more better value. Now I want to see, there's a very large mosque in Oman, and go to one of the bazaars. The city was very spread out. Now I was really tired, so I went out to get a few supplies, and then I looked into seeing could I walk to the bazaar or walk to the mosque, and it was like 2 hour walk, so to both. So I wasn't doing that. It's quite expensive in a taxi as well, so I decided to just stay in and get some room service. Maybe I'll go against why Muscat's unique in Oman is like a lot of Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, they build these massive modern infrastructure projects, whereas Oman's tourism tactic and target is kind of more traditional Middle Eastern. So Muscat's quite low rise. I will say, I don't know, I will maybe give Muscat and Oman another chance. I just found there's like a lot of stuff you seem to be able to do there that I think you could just do in like the UAE anyway, like the trips out to the desert, even if Dubai Old Town, I don't know. I could be wrong. I was only there a day, so I can't really judge. But yeah, my flight was quite early, so I couldn't really do anything. I did look up, there was bars there, but they weren't hotels, only in hotels, similar to a lot of Middle Eastern countries. I think they do have nightclubs as well, same thing, only in hotels, but doesn't seem to be as prevalent as Dubai. I got up, must have been about 2 a.m. for my flight, checked out. Now, this is the thing, and I found it similar in India as well, that I think it's because of the heat, but a lot of people seem to stay up very late. So a lot of the shops and cafes that were empty during the day when I was there were absolutely buzzing at night. So lucky enough, I was worried about getting a taxi because I don't think there's Uber in Oman. Well, I got one, no problem. There's lots of taxis around even at 2 a.m. And yeah, there's another smoking lounge in Muscat Airport, but I thought about better save my cigars for India, so I gave that a miss. And yeah, then my flight arrived in Delhi at 9 a.m, so I think perfect timing. I got plenty of rest in Muscat, so that was the journey, almost as fun as the rest of the trip. The 23 EasyJet, the 81 Sun Express, and the 78 with Oman Air gives a total of £182. So maybe some people could find it cheaper, but I didn't think that was too bad for Liverpool. So I didn't even have to go to London or Manchester to Delhi in India. And I got to take in Izmir, Dubai and Muscat on the way. Now, I know it's not for everyone because obviously I end up very tired to got rough accommodation, but you could do a better accommodation and maybe better flight times. But there you go, and then the Indian adventure began.